Welcome to Huntington Public Library Spooky Story Time for October of 2021. I'm Miss Maureen, and I hope you enjoy this spooky tale that I'm about to share with you. It's called Tally-Po, a ghost story, told by Joanne Galdon and illustrated by Paul Galdon. All right, and here we go, right into the story. Oops. Forgot to put my reading glasses on, so let's get to that. Alrighty. So, a long time ago, an old man lived by himself in the deep, big woods. His cabin had only one room, and that room was his parlor, his bedroom, his dining room, and his kitchen, too. The old man had 3 dogs. One was called Uno, one was called Ino, and one was called Comtico Calico. One day, the man decided to go hunting to catch something for his supper. "Here, here, here!" he shouted to his dogs, and they came bounding off the porch, eager for a chase. After many hours of hunting, the wind began to blow hard. Ooh. From the valley. "It'll be dark soon," the old man said, "and all we've got is a skinny rabbit." He headed home, afraid he might go to bed hungry that night. The old man cooked and ate the rabbit and gave the bones to the dogs. Then he leaned back in his chair and watched the moon as it rose up big and full. The wind whistled around the cabin. Just as the old man was about to doze off, a most curious creature crept through the crack between the logs in the wall. It had a big, long, furry tail. As soon as the old man saw the varmint, he reached for his hatchet and, with one lick, he cut off its tail off. Before the man could raise his hatchet a second time, the creature slipped through the crack and ran away. The old man was still hungry, so he took that big, long tail, cooked it, and ate it. After that, he stepped up the crack in the wall and went to bed. His stomach's full, and he felt so warm and snug that before he knew it, he was asleep. The old man hadn't been asleep very long when he woke up. Something was climbing up the side of his cabin. It sounded like a cat. Scratch, scratch, scratch. "Who's that?" the old man asked. He lay still and listened, and after a while he'd heard a voice say, "Tally-Po, Tally-Po. All I want is my Tally-Po." The scratching, scratch, scratch, went on, and the old man began to shiver and shake. Then he remembered his dogs. He went to the door and called, "Here, here, here!" The dogs came piling out from under the porch, and with their noses to the ground, they chased that thing into the deep, big woods. The old man pulled his covers tightly around him and went back to sleep. In the middle of the night, he woke up again. Now he heard something trying to get in right above the door. "Who's that?" he called. "And what do you want at this time of night when all good folks should be in bed?" He listened, and he could hear it going. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then he heard the voice say, "Tally-po, tally-po, I'm coming to get my tally-po." The old man was so scared he couldn't stand up. So he called his dogs from his bed. "Oh no, Eno, come to go Calico, here, here, here." And those dogs came bursting around the corner of the cabin. They caught up with that wild thing at the gate and tore the whole fence down trying to get at it. Then they chased it into the swamp. At last, all was quiet again. The man went back to sleep. Toward morning, something down the swamp woke up the old man. First thing he thought it was the wind, "Ooh," blowing louder than usual. But when he listened again, he heard that voice crying, "You know and I know, all I want is my tally-po." The old man called his dogs, "Here, here, here! Uno, Eno, come to go Calico." This time, the dogs didn't come. The old man ran outside into the moonlight and called again, "Here, dogs! Here, here, here!" But there was no trace of them. There was just the sound of the wind, "Whoo," blowing around the torn-down fence. That thing had led the dogs way off into the swamp and lost them. Sadly, the man went back inside the cabin and shut and barred the door. Then he went back to bed. Just before daylight, the old man opened his eyes the way people do when they feel someone else is in the room. Something was stirring around the pots and pans. Then something that sounded just like a cat began climbing up the covers on the foot of the bed. The man listened and heard scratch, scratch, scratch. He looked over the foot of his bed and saw 2 pointed ears. Then he saw 2 big, round, fiery eyes staring at him. The man watched. The man wanted to call for help, but he was too scared. The thing kept creeping up until it was right next to the old man. Then it said in a low voice, "You know and I know that I'm here to get my tally-po." The man sat up and pulled the covers over his head. All at once, he got his voice and said, I haven't got your tally-po." "Yes, you have," said the thing. "Yes, you have." And it jumped on top of that man and scratched everything to pieces. Now there's nothing left of the old man's cabin in the deep big woods except the chimney. But folks who live in the valley say that when the moon shines and the wind blows, you can hear a voice say, "Tally-po, tally-po, now I've got my tally-po." I hope you enjoyed that story called The Tally-Po, a ghost story told by Joanne Galdon and illustrated by Paul Galdon. And now we are off to our craft, which you would have received in your bag if you are registered with the Huntington Public Library. If not, I did include a link to where I got the idea for doing the paper mache pumpkin. And I hope you enjoy the craft as much as you enjoy the story. And don't forget to let me know and email me pictures of your craft. Okay? Take care. Okay, here we are at the craft part of the spooky story time. And as you know from your kit, you would have received one already made paper mache pumpkin shape and some paints, some orange, some green, and some black. Hopefully you'll have some paintbrushes at home and even additional paint, because I already actually have one done, a little jack-o'-lantern, and as you can see, I added a little bit of yellow and then highlighted that with the black, so I did have some yellow. And I did cut this one from the bottom, and so that way I can add a little electric battery operated tea light, because since it's paper and paint and glue, you never want to use any type of candle underneath your paper mache jack-o'-lantern. But you don't have to cut it if you don't want to. If anybody has ever listened to my story time before, and I will always emphasize, your artwork is your artwork and it's how you want to do it. So if you have other paints, feel free. This one I am planning on painting blue with some violet eyes. But if you decide to cut it open, you will see that the newspaper paper mache was wrapped around a sandwich baggie filled with recycling paper, just so you don't need a balloon. And I did attach links within the blurb of where I got my recipe for the paper mache. I did the glue, water, and dash of salt recipe that you'll see in the one particular, but she also describes a water, flour, and salt recipe, whichever you prefer. For this instance, I preferred the water and the glue, just because also that's what I had on hand, and so, but you decide. And then I also included another link that I got inspiration from with using plastic baggies or plastic bags with newspaper or recycling paper filled, and plastic bags, and using the paper mache. All right, so I am, and also I included the paper plate that I dried your paper mache on, so you can use that as a tray for when you paint. So, and also, if you do decide to cut, please ask one of your grown-ups to help you cut, whether you decide to cut from the top or cut from the bottom. I used a retractor knife, so again, please ask your grown-up to help you with that. And then you can just pull the bag out and get to painting. And I would suggest, when you decide what you decide to do, I would use a pencil to draw the eyes, nose, and mouth if you decide to do those, and then cut those out. So I hope you have fun, and please email me at the library your completed artwork. I would love to see them. I hope you enjoy the story. Here's my completed jack-o'-lantern with the little battery operated tea light. So just a little idea for you, one you can run with or one you can decide you're not in the mood to do.